Hey everyone, this is John Moran with Customer Acquisition Specialist, and today we are going to be discussing the bidding strategies within Google Ads. We'll discuss how they work, when you may want to apply them, and when to properly use the correct one in order to scale or even maintain a good campaign's performance. So I have here on the screen a Google Ads account of mine, and we're going to hop into a search campaign because search campaign is typically one of the most active campaigns inside the Google Ads ecosystem for people, and it has some of the widest bidding strategies available. I'd like to talk about each one of these. There's maximize clicks, maximize conversions, maximize conversion value, target impression share, and manual CPC. Now, within these, there's also different subsettings. So maximize clicks with a maximum cost per click bid limit, the maximize conversions with a targeted cost per action, also known as TCPA, and then a maximize conversion value, also with a TROAS, which stands for target return on ad spend, target impression share that allows you to adjust your CPCs to wherever you want to be featured on the search engine results page, and manual CPC that has enhanced CPC, which is Google's way of identifying if you should bid higher or lower for that particular sale. So we'll start with the first one here, maximize clicks. Now, the reason why you would want to use maximize clicks in your campaigns is actually in the beginning of testing out where your positioning is going to get you. Maximize clicks actually used to start low and then bid high, but then Google found out it really likes money. So it actually starts off high and then goes down and reduces the CPC until you actually start to lose out on positioning, resulting in less clicks. So what this means is that it'll start off very aggressively. It will actually try to achieve a very high placement, and then as it starts to reduce systemically, usually about every 1 to 5 hours and over a course of about a week, you'll see that your CPC will go from maybe like $3 down to $2.80, down to $2.40, down to $2.30, down to $2, and like you'll see it actually continually gradually go down. And what this is doing is saying, where at on the page am I going to actually start to lose the clicks because now I've kind of fallen to the bottom? Or if I was too far down in that positioning, if I was number 3 or number 4, would I get enough clicks to spend the full daily budget? So it actually is a really good tool to kind of find where you're going to achieve the highest amount of clicks. It does it fairly well. It's called maximize clicks for a reason. It's going to maximize the clicks. Now, maximize clicks does not mean get the worst type of clicks for your daily budget, but it does mean it's not the highest quality clicks. What this means is that if you're in an e-commerce store and you're running a search campaign, a lower positioning will save you on your cost per click, and it will help you in your new customer acquisition cost, and it will help you in your media efficiency ratio. So what this is going to allow you to do is spend the least amount of money that you can for an e-commerce click, but still be relatively at the top. However, for lead gen, it's kind of a different story. Maximize clicks may actually deliver you a lower quality lead. The reason being is that if you're trying to provide a service, for example, let's say you're a plumber and someone is Googling things like emergency plumbing or plumber near me, and you're the third on the page, you're potentially just third considered. They may have called the first person, may not be able to work with them. They may have called the second person, also may not have been able to work with them. And by the time they get to you, they also may not be able to work with you because same reason why they couldn't work with the first and second person. Maybe it's they have issues with a location, or it's not a service that you provide, or they just were looking for the wrong thing, whatever the reason may be. But the lower that you are on the page for lead generation, typically the less quality leads you get. And then Google knows this. That's why they actually charge you so much for that number 1 position. But it's a good introductory bidding strategy. Maximize clicks can tell you, okay, here's kind of the positioning, here's the search terms I get for this CPC, this is how many clicks I can achieve with the CPC at that positioning for the average day or weekday or weekend. So it's a good first-time exploratory campaign. Setting a maximum cost per click bid limit, this is actually going to say, yes, I want to maximize my clicks, but if you are going to start high, don't go over $5. So you actually cap it. It'll start at $5 and work its way down, or it'll start its way at $7 and work its way down. I typically don't set maximum CPC bid limits. The CPC bid limit will be a little bit restrictive depending upon what match type that you have. The exact match type is typically fairly expensive because you're going after high quality, high intent keywords that also everyone else wants. So when you're going after keywords that everyone else wants, that is simply going to raise your CPC. Like you're going to get good positioning, but if you're like emergency plumbing near me, you're talking maybe $100 cost per click. Maybe $200 cost per click. I have one actual emergency plumber right now that is $900 cost per click to be number 1. So You may want to set your CPC limits to something to an extremity if you're going to be going after really high intent keywords, things like DUI attorney, personal injury attorney, plastic surgeon, emergency plumbing. All those type of keywords are going to be very, very, very expensive. So let's move on to the next bidding strategy. Next one is maximize conversions. This one, I love the maximize conversions because when it defaults to maximize conversion, a lot of people don't quite understand that when maximize conversions isn't like kind of the end of the saying. It should say maximize conversions at any cost. It will definitely overbid on purpose. Like it is a very, very, very aggressive bidding strategy. This one's also very good though if you have big budgets and are first starting off. Like if you're like, hey, I need this thing to launch now. I need great placement, high intent keywords. I need great match types or search terms for my match types. I need the least amount of close variance as possible. I need this thing to kick off today. Now, when you get there, or if you decide to stick with it with lower budgets, but keeping it very aggressive, which means just leaving it at maximize conversions, something that you can do is set a target cost per action. And its target cost per action means spend the most amount of money you possibly can today, but try not to get my lead, my phone call, my e-commerce purchase, whatever you're counting as a conversion action, try not to spend more than $160 to do it. There's a much deeper understanding of what this bidding strategy actually does when you set a targeted cost per acquisition. What this means is that you're asking Google of all the people you do know, and it might be 10 people, it might be 1 million people that day who are interested in either buying your product, calling you, filling out a lead form, whatever it is. Of all the people that you know, get me as many as you can for that price, which means I'm going into a competitive ecosystem. And if you only know 10% of the market that is available right now that wants to buy my scooter, it will acquire those people, but it is limited. What this means is Google is technically selling you conversions. They're not selling you traffic anymore. It's a big distinction to remember. When Google starts to sell you conversions, it very heavily limits scale. You'll actually see that if you set a $800, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 budget per day, and if you set a target cost per acquisition too low, you may only spend $200 to $300 that day. It says, hey, these are all of the available people I know that I can get because I'm going to sell you conversions. So typically people will say, well, why don't we just set a target cost per acquisition of $100, so then say now spend $5,000 a day or $10,000 a day, $100,000 a day. Why not do that? It doesn't work that way because Google is only able to identify a finite number of people that has a high chance of converting that day, and that's who you get delivered. It's not incremental impressions and clicks and visibility. It's aggressively buying those conversions. The other one, maximize conversion value. This is almost the exact same thing as maximize conversions, but the algorithm is going to count the value of that sale or value of that lead versus did a conversion take place. It's technically a little harder for Google to do this, so it does take a little while longer for the bidding strategy to learn. It will take a little bit more time. It'll take a little bit more money. And it will take actually a little bit more conversions than maximize conversions to fully learn. But what this is saying is I'm going to get you the most amount of conversion value, even if I have to sacrifice lead or sale quantity, potentially a lower NCAC, but a higher MER, a media efficiency ratio there. That's how that works. We are paying less for less quantity, but the quantity that is less is worth more in a specific currency. So the maximized conversion value is doing the same thing that the maximized conversions is doing, but it's counting a different metric to do that. Now, the other thing to know is if you do not set a target return on ad spend, if you're saying, hey, I don't need to get 200% or 300% or whatever it is inside of my target return on ad spend, if you do not select this, Google defaults to 200%, what they call a TROAS target, which means if the campaign is actually making less than 2x its return, if it's not spending 50 to make 100, it will actually start to spend less. So this one is the only bidding strategy that you can set on like a maximized conversion value, and it will sometimes atrophy a bit if it's not performing well. Now you need to do your base optimizations, your negative keywords, maybe your audience observations, or targeting exclusions, devices, whatever you want, whatever you may be doing. But as you're making your optimizations, that is going to make the campaign more effective, more efficient, maybe different keywords and different match types, etc. And then once it reaches over that 200% threshold, it will self-learn and try to get it higher. Now, the same thing though is when you're setting a target CPA, when you're setting a target ROAS, it's the same thing. What we're doing is asking Google, spend as much as you can to get me at least 250% returned. So if I spend $100 Give me at least $250 back. And if you can do that, spend as much money as you possibly can that day. And it will do that, but you'll know this is the same thing as maximize conversions with a target cost per acquisition, as a finite number of people that it knows or thinks it knows that is going to buy that day or contact you at a specific type of value, and you simply just get what you get. There is not a incremental scale. It will hit a point of diminishing returns, especially the higher you're asking it to return. There's a lot less people that are just ready to make a big sale today, and that's what you're asking Google to buy. So know that there is a very big limit, very big glass ceiling when you add that. Target impression share is actually a great bidding strategy for things like brand, or even things that you just need to be number one all the time, no matter what. You are willing to pay pretty much whatever it is to get there. This is a good strategy to say, hey, Google, when people type in the word emergency plumber, I want to be the absolute top of results page, which means number one, or I want to be at the top, which is in the first four. And lastly, anywhere in the results page means top or bottom. Typically, people want to be at the top or number one. So if you said, I want to be at the number one position, I want to be there 100% of the time, and I'm willing to spend $800 cost per click to get there. It doesn't mean that it'll spend $800. It might be $220, but now you will be number one all the time up until the point where someone outbids you at $800.01. So what this basically means is you get to kind of choose your placement, choose how often you want to be there, and what you're willing to pay. If you said I want to be the absolute top results page, so I want to be number one, but I only want to be there 75% of the time, and I will spend $500 to get there. You still may be number one 100% of the time. But if you're seeing that there's some bids that are 300, some bids that are 600, it will try to kind of keep you in that range by bidding up to what the maximum CPC bid limit is in order to get you into the desired result. So all this means here is that I'm willing to spend this much to be at this area this amount of time. And it's very, very, very simple. So it works well for brand. I would really only use this one for a branded campaign, because that one you can say, hey, I want to be absolute top results page 100% of the time, and I don't want to spend over $10 for my brand name. It allows it to dynamically react to competitors bidding on your brand name, or sometimes a massive amount of influx in traffic that is searching your brand name. Let's say you had a good influencer, like a good YouTube video though, or a good TikTok that went viral and people are now Googling you. This is a really good way to just kind of protect that investment, to make sure that all roads are going to lead back to you, and you're just willing to set how much you're willing to pay to stay there. Now, the last one is Manual CPC. So Manual CPC has two different sub options, and we'll go through those here in a moment. But Manual CPC, what this means is this is a manual cost per click that you are setting at a maximum. It does not mean that I want to bid $2 for this keyword. It means I will bid up to $2 for that keyword. So it's kind of like setting your maximum CPC. If the competitors that are also bidding on that keyword are bidding very low, you just default to the highest position 1 penny above whatever the second highest position was. So what that means is that if someone's bidding $5, and you have a max CPC of 10, it'll bid at 501, and then you win that first position. But technically what this is doing is you just kind of just put your maximum bid in, and then if you are higher than everyone else, you get the better position. If you are lower than everyone else, you get a low position. Very, very, very simple. It's kind of just a manual auction. Optimize for conversions and optimize for conversion value. What this means is that when Google believes that a higher likelihood chance of a conversion is going to happen, it will raise your bid for you. So this is basically, would you like to set a max cost per click and then also have it be maximized conversions? If so, then use this one. This one will just kind of bid for traffic that is maybe not as ready to buy, and you have a good chance, so you set a lower CPC, but the manual CPC with enhanced CPC enabled will rise up and scoop up those quick wins. Same exact thing for conversion value, same exact methodology. It will raise its bid when it thinks that a higher likelihood of a higher conversion value will occur. Awesome. So I hope this was good for you. What I would actually challenge you to do is take what you've learned here today and apply it to each one of your campaigns. Search, shopping, YouTube is another one. If you're running a performance max campaign, you only have these two options: maximize conversion value. But now that you kind of know how they work, go through and say, is this actually the bidding strategy that's properly selected for the campaign for its purpose? And see if there's any kind of optimizations you can make. So I'm John Moran, a customer acquisition specialist. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you so much. Bye.